I'm glad to see you all here to learn a little bit more about undergraduate research in molecular and cellular biology or biochemistry. My name is Tina Knox, and I'm the coordinator of undergraduate instruction and advising in molecular and cellular biology. And my colleague here is Jeff Goldberg. He's going to take just a few minutes and speak just mainly to the biochemistry students.
Thank you, Tina. So, yes, what I'm about to say is only for biochemistry students or anybody who wants to transfer over to biochemistry in the next year or two. But biochemistry students, everybody else, tune out just for a few minutes. Alright? So, biochemistry students, listen to everything that it's said today, that's talked about today about undergraduate research. What I'm going to share with you now are a few of the differences, okay? These are just some of the differences. And if I'm wrong, Tina will correct me. She has that power to do that. Okay. My understanding is you only need let me back up. Okay. Biochemistry 492 is senior research. Senior research is not required for biochemistry students. However, it's strongly recommended. On the other hand, if you pursue departmental distinction, you have to do senior research, Biochem 492, and have the appropriate minimum GPA of 3.25. Virtually 100% of my students that do senior research do research before their senior year, which is what we're talking about today, which is, for biochemistry students, it's called Biochemistry 290. For MCB students, it's MCB 290. And that is an important distinction. Biochemistry students must register if you're doing research before your senior year for Biochemistry 290, not MCB 290. MCB students can add their lab 290 up to the 10th day of class. Biochemistry haven't added PERC. If you happen to add a lab after the 10th day of class of a semester, I can get you into Biochemistry 290. So it's just a little perk for biochemistry students. Most biochemistry students join labs in the biochemistry department or anywhere in the school of MCB. However, I have students all over campus. You probably do too, I assume. Okay. Wait. Not all over campus, but is it outside of MCB
yes.
as well? Outside of MCB. I've had students in plant pathology. Well, I had a student in geology of all places. They were doing some molecular work in geology, and that worked out. I have students in vet med labs, that sort of thing. So don't feel you're restricted just to biochem or MCB labs, although there's many fine labs in MCB and biochemistry. How to find a lab is a little bit different than the MCB way. They'll talk about links and profiles and that sort of thing. I send out instructions every semester to all my undergrads on how to find a lab. I tell you how to write emails to the professors and how to follow up and that sort of thing. It's a direct contact my students, biochem students, make with the faculty. It's not through a link. Okay. So that's really all I have. All right? Good?
Thank you, Jeff.
Did I say anything wrong?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, good. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, so you all are here to learn about undergraduate Undergraduate Research, and I'm going to talk specifically about undergraduate research in molecular and cellular biology. Most of what I say is applicable to our biochemistry students who Jeff just spoke to. I will do my best to tell you when there are differences, but if you are a biochemistry major and you ever have any doubt about what to do or what the rules and policies are for undergraduate research, please check with Jeff Goldberg. He's your academic advisor. Okay, so what is research? Undergraduate research is an opportunity for you as students to work in a lab here at the University of Illinois. You typically work on a research project in conjunction with a principal investigator. So that's the faculty member who's in charge of the lab, the person who has written grants and gotten money to do different research. Sometimes, depending on the size of the lab, you'll work directly with the PI. Sometimes you will work with a postdoctoral employee, and sometimes you'll work with a graduate student. So it just depends on the size of the lab and your level of experience and what they have. So for MCB students, there are a couple of ways to do research. One is to earn MCB 290 credit. MCB 290 is restricted to MCB biology or biochemistry majors only. Now Jeff just told you if you're a biochem major, it's in your best interest to really do biochem 290, and if you have any questions about that, please ask. But if you are a non-MCB major, a non-biology major, we do not allow you to register for our course, okay? So you earn a letter grade in the course, and that's important for you to know because it will affect your GPA. You want to make sure that you have a detailed conversation with the person you're working for so that you understand exactly what you're being graded on. But it's a nice way for you to do that. There are a few paid positions on campus. There's not very many. Most of the paid positions start off as like a dishwasher or filling pipette tips or something like that. If you do find a paid position, you cannot also earn credit. It's one or the other. Either you get paid or you earn course credit. Okay? So why do you guys want to do research? You all came here to find out more about it. What is your interest in research? You have no idea, that's why you're listening. What do you hope to get from it? Yeah. Hands-on experience, very good. Undergraduate research is a great way to get hands-on experience, to learn a little bit more detail about what you're learning about in lecture, so you can actually try out the techniques that you're learning about in your lectures and your labs. Why else would you want to do research? Yeah. To be able to apply what you've learned, right? So we tell you all kinds of facts and things that you memorize and try to learn to apply in your lecture and your lab classes, but when you're in a research lab, you actually get to utilize that knowledge. Yeah?
I just want to say experience. It helped me figure out what I want to do in the future, if I like the lab or if I want to go to different.
Very good. Experience. That's a big one. So do you like to do research? What's it like? Do you maybe want to go on to graduate school and earn a PhD, go on and get a master's or something like that? So these are some of the reasons that people get involved in research. It's not all of them, but it really does help you get the experience to see what it's like. Okay? It also allows you to practice problem solving, which is a huge skill that you need to go into any sort of workforce. All right, so in order to be eligible to do undergraduate research and earn MCB 290 or Biochem 490, you have to be a declared major in either biology, MCB, MCB honors, or biochemistry. You have to do work in an approved University of Illinois lab. For the most part, that's going to be in a molecular and cellular biology lab. We do have students that work in non-MCB labs, and I have a student that's going to talk to you about that. But those projects need to get approved ahead of time, and so you have to write a little bit more detailed project about what you'll be doing so that we know that it's eligible for MCB 290. Typical workload in a lab, if you earn 1 credit hour of MCB 290 or biochemistry 290, typically in a 16-week semester, that is equal to 5 hours per week in the lab. So if you do 2 credit hours, that'd be 10 hours per week in lab. Now that's an average, so depending on what the project in the lab is, that could vary. It's possible that you'll need to spend 10 or 15 hours in a lab one week when you're in the middle of getting the project all set up and started. And then the next week, maybe you're waiting on incubations and growth and things like that, so maybe you only do 5. So it will vary. That's another conversation that you want to have with the person that you're working with, just to make sure you have a clear idea of what's expected of you. If you do research during the summer, that changes a little bit. Typically when students do research during the summer, they're only working for 8 to 10 weeks. And so you are expected to put in more hours per credit hour for that. If you ever have any questions about that, you can always ask your academic advisor, or I am a very good resource. I'm also an academic advisor, but you can always email me with those questions. The biggest piece of advice I have for getting involved in undergraduate research is making sure that you understand what is going to be expected of you. So you're getting into the lab because you want to learn. You want to apply what you've done in class. You want to try some new techniques. You want to see if maybe graduate school might be right for you or not. The faculty member has expectations as well. So they have to write grants, they have to present certain documents, they have to show progress for those grants. And so there are things that they need from you in exchange for the lessons that you're going to learn. Each lab is a little bit different. Sometimes you will be working on a project with someone. Once you get more experienced, you might have your own project, but you want to make sure that you know what is expected of you. When are you supposed to be in lab? What needs to get done? Are you supposed to read certain articles before coming to lab? Do you have to participate in journal club or lab meetings? Do you have to give a presentation at the end of the semester? Each lab is a little bit different, so you want to make sure you're having those conversations and finding that out ahead of time. I have had students get into trouble because they didn't really fully understand what they were getting into. This is a commitment. It is like a job. Even if you're not getting paid, if you're getting course credit, it is a job. You want to be professional about it and give it just as much attention as you give your other classes. Okay? Does anybody have questions about MCB 290 credit or workload? Okay. So I think probably one of the main reasons you guys are here is to figure out how to find a lab, right? How do you get started? Oh, I forgot about the limits. Sorry, let me back up one more slide. So limits. You can earn up to 10 credit hours of MCB 290 or Biochem 290 and count those towards your 120 hours that you need to graduate. After that, it no longer counts towards the 120 you need to graduate. However, don't stop earning credit for your research. Everything that you do will show up on your transcript. It counts in your GPA. It just won't count towards those 120 hours. So don't hit 10 hours and just stop and say you're done. It's still worth your time and energy if you are liking it and it's good experience for graduate school or professionals. Okay? All right, so now we'll talk about finding a lab. So these are some general steps to go about if you're looking for a lab. First thing is review information on our websites. Then you're going to research the faculty, make a list of people that you might want to work with. You might create an online student profile that I'll talk to you about. Biochemistry students do not need to do that. And then you're going to contact faculty by email. So the first thing, review information on our website. The MCB Undergraduate Research website has tons of information on it. In fact, in my opinion, it has too much. I need to clear some of it out. But it will tell you what research is, how to get started. There's some old podcasts of student perspectives. There are handouts, there are forums, there's a video. There's lots of stuff for you to look into. So check that out. If you're not sure where to start, that's a good place to start. The next thing you want to do is research faculty. So as MCB majors or biochemistry majors, most likely the first place you want to start is with our own faculty. And you'll make a list of people that you want to work with. And my advice is always to make a list of at least 10 faculty that you would be interested in working with. Because here's the thing, there are tons of you, there's a limited number of faculty. Depending on how much space they have in their lab, they may or may not be able to take you on during the semester that you're looking. So you might need to ask multiple people and keep your options open. So the website that you would go to is just mcb.illinois.edu people. And you can search faculty based on their research interests, and you can look at some video interviews that our MCB honor students have put together. So this is the school directory. So if you know a particular faculty member you want to work with, you can list them in alphabetical order here, or find them in alphabetical order here. But over here at the side, you can see research interests. We have some faculty who specifically work on disease research, and then we've got the video interviews. You can go to any of those and look up and find a little bit more information about the faculty. If you know you want to work in biochemistry, you can start on the biochemistry page. If you know that you want to work in microbiology, you can start on the microbiology page. But if you just want a general overview of our research interests, that's the best place to start. Okay, so this is a sample faculty web page. This is Dr. Jim Slough. I kind of pieced different parts of it together. It doesn't look exactly like this. But what you'll find is the research topics that Dr. Slough works on, his education, just a general overview of the projects going on in his lab. And in many labs, there's more than one project, so you'll want to read through that. And then at the bottom, you can see some of their recent publications. Those are a good place to go if you want to get a little bit more detailed information about the project that they're working on. And it's very helpful if you get an interview in a lab to do some research ahead of time on your own before going in, so that you're somewhat educated in terms of what the lab is working on. Okay. All right, so once you get a list of faculty that you're interested in working with, then my recommendation is to fill out an online student profile. This is just for MCB or biology students, not for the biochemistry students. It is like an online resume. Several years back, we went around and we interviewed some of the faculty who are doing research and asked them what are some things that you might want to know about students who are interested in undergraduate research, and then we put it all in an electronic form that faculty can access. So you'll just go in, you will pick the term that you're interested in doing research, and then you'll fill out an application. So there's general information like your name, net ID, UIN, address, and things like that. It will ask you your GPA, your current major. This is asking you what semester you are in school, not year. How many semesters have you been here? There is a place for you to talk about any experience that you may already have. Don't let that freak you out. You are not expected to have done research previously, but if you have, put that information here. So you'll fill all of that out, and then that will be checked for accuracy. So you fill that out, you submit it, it comes to the MCB advising office. About once a week, we will look those up. We'll check that your GPA is correct, that the information that you put in is correct. It asks you to tell us what courses you've taken and what grades you've earned. And once we approve it, you will get a link that you can send to faculty and say, here's a link to my online student profile. The profile is active for 6 months, after which time you need to update it, fill out a new one. And this database is only available to MCB or biology students. Biochemistry, you could do it, but Jeff says not to, so you can skip this step. And it can only be viewed by faculty who are in MCB. So if you're planning on looking for labs outside of MCB, then you'll need to have still your own copy of this or a resume that you can provide to those faculty. Any questions about the online profile? It's fairly self-explanatory once you log in. Okay, so once you have your list, you've got your online profile, you need to reach out to the faculty. The best way to do that in most cases is by email. You can send these out in batches of 5 or so, because I told you to make a list of about 10, and you want to make this professional. So you are asking for a job, basically. You don't say, hey, I'm interested in your research, you got any space? And not sign your name. It is a letter. Dear Dr. Blanky, my name is Tina. I'm a junior in MCB. I'm looking for research next semester. Do you have any space in your lab? Is there a time that we could meet to talk about it in more detail? Thank you very much, Tina Knox. Okay, see, I signed my name so that he knows who it came from and he knows who he's writing back to. Right? So this is a letter, you're asking for a job. You want to be professional, you want to be precise, And each email should indicate that you've looked at the faculty member's profile. So every email is going to be personal and different. I see that you're working on pathogenic bacteria, and I'm really interested in that. Something to that effect. You don't have to know everything that's going on in lab. I realize this is the first time that many of you have done undergraduate research, but you do want to show that you've looked into it and you're not just sending out blanket emails to every faculty member on this campus. Okay, so, actually, let me go back one. You may have to be persistent with this. So our faculty are very busy. I just got done saying that there are a lot of you, and there's a set number of faculty in MCB and in biochemistry. They get a ton of emails. Depending on the time of year, you may get better responses from them than others. They are not purposefully ignoring you. They are not trying to be mean. I don't think so. Most of them are not. They just get busy, and it may not be on their radar right now to think about having an undergraduate in their lab. Okay, so you send one email. I would wait a minimum of 3 days. Sometimes I say wait a week. If you don't get a response, you can send a nice follow-up email. Not sure if you got my first email, but I am still interested in working in your lab. Do you have space? Is there a time that we can meet? I usually tell students that you can send up to 2 follow-up emails. And then after that, if it's somebody that you really, truly are passionate about working with, you might see if they're teaching a class and have office hours. You might stop by their lab. Do not expect to be able to talk to them right that minute, but at least they've seen your face and there's a face to go with your name, and you can say, I really am anxious to see if I can work in your lab. Do you have some time that we can schedule a meeting? And at that point, they'll either say, sorry, I don't have space, or yeah, let's schedule something, and they'll get that scheduled. Okay? In the email, if you do have a student profile, you can put the link to that. That way it'll save you from writing paragraphs of information about your GPA and what you want to do with your life and things like that. Questions about what to put in your email and how to reach out to faculty? There are some other ways. So, I mean, this is sort of non-personal. You start with emails, but you all are in MCB classes that are taught by MCB faculty. So you can get to know faculty who are teaching your classes and ask them about the research that they're doing. You can get to know them that way during office hours. If you're in a lab course, or if you have a TA that's teaching your discussion question, those are graduate students in MCB. They are doing research in someone's lab, so you can talk to them about that. And sometimes that's how you can find research. Okay, so if you do get invited to come in for an interview, again, you want to treat this as a job. You do not have to dress up in a full suit. Scientists typically do not wear suits because they will be ruined in lab. But you do want to look nice, so business casual. Come prepared. Make sure that you have read at least some of the abstracts or introductions to some of the publications that they've done. Make sure you've read about the projects that they are doing in their lab. Again, you don't have to know all of the details. You don't even have to understand it, but you have to show that you put some work in and know what you want to do. I'm going to say this for probably the 3rd time. I probably will say it again before I finish today. Make sure you ask them about expectations. If they offer you a position in the lab, ask them what is expected of them and how you will be graded. That is super important. You want to make sure to understand that. And please be honest about your availability. If you are invited to work in a lab and they say, I really need you to work 10 hours a week, but you don't have time, you know personally that you do not have time to spend 10 hours a week in lab, you need to be honest with them about that. Perhaps they can work with you, perhaps they can't, but your academics absolutely have to come first. We recommend that you have a GPA of 3.0 or higher before getting involved in undergraduate research, because this is a time commitment. And if you aren't earning at least a B or better in your courses, then you probably need to be spending more time on your academics. So please be honest with your faculty, with your postdocs, with your grad students about what time you have available. Okay, so once you get into a lab, you have to enroll in MCB 290. So there's some paperwork that has to be filled out. There are forms that are online on our website. There are also forms in the advising office and in the core curriculum office. They look similar to this. So if you are an MCB student working in an MCB lab, and again, biochem students, you don't have these forms, just work with Jeff on it. MCB students and biology students, this is the form that you would use if you're working in an MCB lab. You fill it out, you have the faculty member sign it so that I know that they really have approved that you can work in their lab. You bring this to the core curriculum office, which is in room 2002. That's Lincoln Hall, never mind, that's the LAS office. It's in room 252 Davenport Hall. Okay, the core curriculum office in 252 Davenport Hall. Whoever's working the desk there will process this for you. They will confirm that you're an MCB major. They'll confirm with you, okay, you're doing this for 1 credit hour, that's equal to 5 hours a week in lab. You agree to that? Yes. And then we'll give you the CRN so that you can register. So that's where the deadlines come in. There are add deadlines for courses on this campus. During a regular semester, you can add a course up to the 10th day of class. And since you need to get a CRN from us, our office is only open till 5 p.m. So 5 p.m. on the 10th day of class, that is the deadline to add MCB 290. On occasion, we can let you add it late if it's in an MCB lab and it's within a week or 2 of the deadline and maybe the faculty member was out of town or they couldn't get to it or they just made a decision and just offered you a position. Very few exceptions to this rule, so please pay very close attention to the deadlines. If you're working in a non-MCB lab, this is the form that you'll fill out. It's actually 2 pages because we need more information from you on what the research is that's going on in the lab. So you will fill out the form, you will get it approved, you'll get the CRN, you will make sure to add information about that. So here are the deadlines. Summer session, it is the 7th day. Once you get into a lab, you're going to continue in it, you need to renew it. There are renewal forms online. You can do that online. You never have to come back to the core curriculum office for that if you don't want to, so you can pay attention to that. If you want to work in a non-MCB lab, let's say you can't find a faculty member who has space in their lab, then you might reach out to somebody else across campus. These are some of the other places on campus that our students typically work. So just to give you an idea of places to look, and I will post these slides online as well. If you work in a non-MCB lab, you will be in a specific section of MCB 290. Because they are non-MCB faculty, we have to give you, we have to put you in a dummy section. So we have, Melissa Michael is our Associate Director of Core Curriculum, and she has a section of MCB 290 that she will put students in who she has approved to work in a non-MCB lab. She has very strict deadlines for that. So if you work in a non-MCB lab, there's no exception. You do it by the 10th day of class or the 7th day in the summer, or you don't do it that semester. Okay? Questions about any of that? I know this policy stuff is a little bit dry. It's going to get more fun next, I promise. But I needed to make sure that you were aware of what MCB 290 is and how to sign up.